beginning, you're at the airport in Arizona, you find out that the white smoke is coming from the Vatican, and you're on a plane flying back east. If you could pick up that story, and then how that led to your visit with the Pope 6 months ago.
Well, I was flying from Phoenix to Boston, and I got a text from Darren Walker and Dean Baquet. Darren Walker was both black guys. Darren was the president of the Ford Foundation. And Dean was the former executive editor of the New York Times from New Orleans. And the text said, "Skip, the Pope is black. Dean knows his family." And I went, "Oh my God, like the Pope is black. I wonder if they knew that." The College of Cardinals. And these are two serious guys, very well educated, right? So it wasn't like a crackpot theory. So I couldn't wait to, get home. And that night, I was summoned to an emergency meeting with the editorial board of the New York Sunday Times Magazine, because I'd been in secret negotiations with them to do the Pope's family tree. To create a column called The Genealogist, like my friend Anthony Appiah's column, The Ethicist, right? So they said to me, so the first thing next morning, I'm on a Zoom with them, and they go, "All right, we're going to put you to the test. Do the Pope's family tree. And let's see if these stories about him being black are true." And that day, on the front page, one of our regional, a freelance genealogist named Jari Honoré, had published an article saying that the Pope had these black roots on his mother's side in New Orleans. So the Times said, "I want you to start from scratch, do American Ancestors," and Tom is on the board of American Ancestors, the old New England Historic Genealogical Society, but we need you to do it in a week. And can you do it in a week? And I said, if you give me unlimited resources, I can do it in a week. So I got American Ancestors, and I got the Cuban Genealogical Society of Miami, and my wife, who's a Cuban historian, and we kicked into gear. 5 days later, we produced a 500-year family tree for the Holy Father.
Wow.
It was amazing. And the Times ran it. I encourage you all to look at it. You can just Google the Pope's family tree, because they used AI to create it in this, they rendered it so beautifully and effectively. Now, my wife, every summer for years, for 45 years, I have spent 2 months on Martha's Vineyard, and you all know that's a beautiful island off the coast of Massachusetts. Barack's got a house there, Caroline Kennedy's got a house there, the Clintons vacation there. And it's one of the few places black people could buy property at the beach, because the beaches were segregated, right? Again, because of nudity, and exposed flesh. You gotta keep the races apart, okay? But Martha's Vineyard, Sag Harbor and Long Island, a place in the Chesapeake, they were the three famous areas where upper-class black people could buy property, starting at the beginning of the 20th century for Martha's Vineyard. So my wife said, the world is so big, you keep going to this tiny little island. She's from Cuba, the biggest island in the Caribbean. And she goes, "You call this an island? They don't even have beautiful sandy beaches like we do." She's all the time putting down Martha's Vineyard. So I said, "Where do you want to go?" She goes, "Let's go to Rome." The Lord works in mysterious ways.
This is a year ago.
Long before Francis was alive, right? Long before anybody thought about a new pope. I just so happened to have booked a vacation in Rome in early July. June 12th, my family tree is published. And everywhere there's Roman Catholic, you're Roman Catholic, how many Roman Catholic, 1.5 billion?
Oh, at least. Probably closer to 2 billion. But
Okay. Everywhere there were Catholics, this was on the front page, the Pope's family tree. Because it's quite diverse. He did have African American ancestors, but he had French ancestors, Spanish ancestors, Italian ancestors, Cuban ancestors, even a Haitian ancestor. So he's quite ecumenical, as I, pun intended, as I said in the news. One, through the front door. I wrote to I got the official address. I sent letters to the Vatican. I said, "Here I am. You know who I am. I did the Pope's family tree with the Holy Father consent to see me during this week when I'm going to be in Rome. And almost immediately, I got a letter back that basically said, "You're cute, kid." The Holy Father is on vacation. He's new. The world is falling apart. Who cares about your little... He is aware of your family tree. But no, he's not going to see. And I thought, wow, that's cool. Not very Christian. But, all right. Then I had plan B, which is a friend of mine has a lawyer in Rome who is also one of the lawyers for the Vatican. And he said to me, he could get you in. He said, "He and the Pope are look tight." So, that's cool. Decided to play that. I'm leaving for Rome on Friday through London. I like to take the morning flight that arrives in London about 6 p.m. I hate red eyes. I never adjust well to flying overnight. No matter what, I can take Ambien, Xanax, I can take whatever, and it just doesn't work. Okay. So, I was going Friday morning, leaving for Rome, leaving for London, then, 2 hours later, catching the flight from London to Rome, just a few hours. Tuesday, I get an email from Carlo, the lawyer. And you know what he says? The Holy Father's on vacation. He's very busy. He appreciates your family tree. And maybe another time, but this is not going to work. Third time is charm. I wake up one night and I think, there had to be at least one African-American cardinal who voted for the Pope. And I bet if I reach out to him, that he could help me. And there was one, Cardinal Wilton Gregory, Washington, D.C. And I wrote to him and immediately got a response. He set up a Zoom and I said, "Your Eminence," I looked up how I was supposed to address him. "Your Eminence, I would love to present the Holy Father with his family tree, the one that was published in the New York Times, so he could have it framed or whatever." And he loved the idea so much that he said, he dictated the letter that I should write. He said, "I want you to email this to me, email this to the Vatican, and then I want you to FedEx hard copies with your signature, and we'll wait and see." So remember, I got the reject letter from Carlo, the lawyer, on Tuesday. On Wednesday morning, there is a person who reads all my public mail, and it's overwhelming. Most of it people wanting to be in Finding Your Roots, but a lot of other things. And I make a pot of coffee every morning. I grind these Yirgacheffe beans from Ethiopia, and take my wife a cup of coffee in bed. And while the coffee is brewing, I'm checking my email. And this person wrote to me and said, "Wow, did you know that you've been invited to meet the Pope on Saturday morning at 10 o'clock? And I said, "That's what I'm talking about."
Okay, so
I said, "Thank you, Jesus."
So let me jump in, fast forward. You get to Rome at 1 in the morning, you get up at 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning, you head to the Vatican, and your wife greets the Pope how?
My wife kissed the Pope's ring. You're not telling the story, right?
No, I want you to tell the story.
Oh, okay.
You're the storyteller.
See, he knows the story. My wife is a feisty, independent person. She's an atheist, stone atheist, and defies, hates pomp and circumstance. So she said, "I'm not going to wear a black veil to meet the Pope." And she had done a lot of this research, right? And I said, "Well, you don't have to do that anymore. Used to be you had to, a woman, you know this, you tell them, a woman had to have her head covered.
To go to church?
Yeah, to go to church, let alone to meet the Pope." This was a private audience with the whole Pope. It's a 30-minute private audience. J.D. Vance got 30 seconds.
That long?
Sorry, J.D., I don't know how long you got. But, so we get in a big argument. I go, "You have to wear a black dress. You're meeting the head of the Roman Catholic Church." She goes, "No, I'm not doing it." And her favorite shop in the whole women's shop is called TJ Maxx. And she loves going to formal things, and someone will compliment her and she'll say, $29.99, baby, at TJ Maxx. Because she thinks it's obscene how much money Americans spend on clothes when all these poor people in the world. Okay? She's a real compassionate person. So we have this big fight, and I'm looking online for how women have met the Holy Father. And I find Angela Merkel, used to run Germany.
German chancellor.
That's right. And she had a black pantsuit. She goes, okay, I got that, I'll wear it. So Marielle went to a conference in Madrid, and I'm back in the States, waiting on whether I'm going to get to meet the Pope or not. And the letter comes, so I go, we had planned to meet that Friday night in Rome. And I go, it's on. And she goes, wow, that's amazing. So on Friday morning, the Pope's family tree, 5 feet long, put it in overhead luggage. And I'm riding first class, of course, and I'd go to London. Then it's a miracle that all the planes were on time. It was a miracle. And then I transferred to the flight to Rome, and Marielle comes down from Madrid. She's in our hotel room. I get there at 1 a.m., okay, on July the 4th this year. And I'm carrying the tube, I take a Xanax, I go to sleep. The alarm goes off at 7:30, we have a coffee delivered to the room. Our driver's picking us up at 8:30. So, drink the coffee, take a shower, we're getting dressed, and I look at her and I go, she goes, how do I look? You look great. I look down, she had bright red shoes on. My wife was signifying all the way. And she and the Pope loved each other. He speaks fluent Spanish because he was in Peru for 30 years, I think. And she's Cuban. And a lot of his ancestors were from Spain. And she had done a lot of the research. So they half the time they spoke in Spanish, and it was great, it was cool. And she said, but I'm not gonna kiss his ring. And I go, it's okay, you don't have to kiss his ring. And you're told that's optional. I kiss his ring. I mean, when you get into the Vatican, this is God's representative on earth for 2 billion people. And you feel that. You feel the tradition. The Church of Peter, on this rock I'll build my church. There was a Bible there, handwritten from 769. I think it was amazing, outside the Pope's office. So, and also, when I met him, he stuck his hand in my face with his ring on. So I kissed the ring. But I knew my wife wasn't. But I looked over my shoulder at her. Ladies and gentlemen, she looked like a porpoise diving for fishing. I said, hey, thought you weren't going to kiss the ring? She goes, shut up, shut up.
Great story.